Broadcasting live from SETI Alpha 6 in the Andromeda Galaxy, this is Mr. C.
And happy 1st of the month. Oh wait, I'm messing with you. I'm actually taping this on Sunday when it actually is the 1st of the month, November 1st. And then when you watch this, it will be Oxymoron Monday, like Happy Monday. So anyway, well, of course you need a white sheet, and I think you've got a white sheet in front of you. You need lesson summary 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. So you need your lesson summaries. Hey, I just want to say a little bit about the lesson summaries. I primarily build my test from these lesson summaries. I really stay pretty close to these. Now, I add information, so check this out. I mean, look at all the extra information I've added here and that I have added over here. I mean, look at this. Now, here's a story. Mr. C, what about this? We've got our journals. Yeah, we've got our journals. Now, here's a story. There are some things that will continually go in your journal, like the lake levels, which we're going to cover in a little bit. But on these lesson summaries, if you want to put all your notes on these and not stick them in your journal, that's fine with me. That's fine with me. Sort of a one-stop shop for the information. Okay, so I'm good with that. But that means that you've got to hang on to your lesson summaries and you've got to fill them out. So I'll leave that up to you. So anyway, just saying. Okay, so lesson summaries are out. You've got them out, right? Okay, so you've got that white sheet. And I have 10 quick questions for you on the white sheet from the lesson summaries. Now, you can't use the lesson summaries for these answers. All right, here we go. Number 1, I'm going to go really fast. So I'm going to give you the definition. You have to give me the term. If you get an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, or a 10 out of 10, you can count it. And it can go in as a grade. So it's up to you. You might not want to put an 8 out of 10 in. You might want to just only go with it, some of you, if it's a perfect, a 10 out of 10. Or a 9 out of 10, which is an A minus. It's up to you. Mr. C, I've got a C. I could go with an 8 out of 10. That would be a B minus. So I could go with that. It's up to you. So you're going to turn it in. Now, every time papers are turned in, I get a few that have no name. So a paper that you're going to have to turn in, I don't even want you to write anything until you put your name, date, period, upper right-hand corner. So do that right now, and Mr. Gilbert is overseeing that process. Name, date, period, upper right-hand corner. All right, this is going to be like super fast. Are you ready? Here we go. What do we call a place that's totally empty? There are no atoms, no matter whatsoever. And that's what space is. No atoms, no air, no matter. So what is that? Number 1. Number 2, what do we call weightlessness if you were an astronaut that you would experience in space? That's number 2, weightlessness. There's a term for it. What is it called? Number 3, maybe the hardest one of all. What do we call a satellite that we put in space and it stays right over the equator at the same longitude? So it's up like 22,000 miles or whatever it is, and it constantly stays right above that part of the Earth. So what is that called? What kind of satellite or orbit is that? That's number 3. Okay, I'm just going to do 10, I think. So number 4, what do we call the model for the Earth where the Earth was the center? The Earth was the center. What is that called? Earth's the center. Number 5, you know where I'm going next? Turned out that the sun is actually the center and everything goes around the sun. What is the term for that? Sun's the center. So what is that? Number 5. Number 6, what kind of orbit do planets have? And they are flattened circles. What are they known as? That's number 6. And number 7. Number 7, what do we call the sun, the planets, their moons, and all the smaller objects? What are they called? There's a name for that. What is it? So that would be number 7. Number 8, what do we call the distance from the Earth to the Sun? And we use it as a measuring stick. What's the term for that? Number 8. That would be number 8. Okay. And number 9. There's a reason that the Earth has an atmosphere that helps it heat up to just the right amount, just right temperatures. Now, Venus has a runaway kind of this, where it just is, there's too much of a good thing and it heats up too much, and that's why Venus is 900 degrees. So what is the term for that? I'll give you a hint. It's called a something effect. A something effect. That is number 9. So Earth has a mild effect. Venus has a runaway effect, so it's like super too hot. I mean, like way over the top hot. I mean, just like spectacularly hot. Okay. And number 10. I'm looking for one more. Hey, I'll let number 10 be a wild card. I'll just give it to you. Number 10 is a freebie, so everybody gets number 10. Here are your answers really quick. Let's see how you did. So be honest. You don't need a red pen for this, but you need to be honest. Please be honest. Okay? You'll initial your score in a minute if you're going to turn it in. Number 1, no matter. That would be a vacuum where there's no atoms at all. Number 2, the weightless condition that's experienced in space. That's microgravity. Microgravity. Number 3, where we put a satellite up above the Earth so it stays, it just tracks right above that area. So it's called geostationary. So number 3, geostationary orbit or satellite. Number 4, Earth's the center, geocentric. Greek word, geocentric. And then Greek as well, the sun is the center, heliocentric. Heliocentric, both Greek derivatives. So that was number 5, heliocentric. Number 6, an elliptical orbit or ellipse. An ellipse, that's number 6. Number 7, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Number 7, what do we call, like I said, the sun, all the planets, all the moons, and a bunch of smaller objects like comets and asteroids and meteorites and such. That would be the solar system. Number 7, solar system. Number 8, what do we call the measuring stick, which is the distance from, the average distance from the Earth to the sun. That is an astronomical unit. Astronomical unit. Mr. C, would you give credit if we put AU? Okay, I will. 1 AU, I'll give credit. That's what it says on the lesson summary, 1 AU. So that was number 8. And then number 9, what do we call it where the atmosphere traps heat? And heat builds up, just enough on the Earth, way too much on Venus. It is the greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect. Okay? And then number 10 is a freebie. So anyway, I don't know how you did, but if you want to turn in for a score, put your score at the top, initial it, and in it comes. Make sure your name, date, and period is on it. Okay? Name, date, period. Okie doke. Well, it's kind of catch up a little bit. I wanted to go over test number 6, so give you the answers really quick, which you took a week ago, and if you've taken it, it's in the computer. Well, I should say, if you've turned it in. Okay? Now, I picked up I usually do this. I pick up the tests and all paperwork on Saturday, and then the following Monday through Friday I grade those papers. So I just put in a week ago's work. I just put it up in the computer. So let me give you the test results, and then I have a little announcement about freebies that I wanted to tell you about. Okay? All right, John 1, 1-3, all things were made by him, and without him nothing was made that has been made. What's the major meaning? Jesus made everything. 4 and 5, Genesis 1 tells us how Jesus made everything. Thought it, said it, got it. Or he just spoke things into existence instantaneously. Or Nick, nothing instantly commanded. Bunch of ways you could have gotten at it, and they would have all counted. 3 astronomical objects that God made that are mentioned in Genesis 1. The earth, the moon, and the sun. Earth, moon, sun. 2 causes for the changes in the seasons, Earth's tilt and revolution. Tilt and revolution. 9 and 10, 2 things that migratory animals have to know. God designed them to know this. They have to know when and where to migrate to. When to migrate and where to migrate to. One example, there's a bunch of them, but that one bird, the godwit, flies from Alaska to New Zealand 9 days nonstop. Unbelievable. So, or you could have, some of you could have put down the Canadian geese. By the way, you can still watch a video on Canadian geese honking, a minute or two of a flyover of a big V, and turn it in for 4 points. Number 12, what do we conclude about animals being able to migrate? They were designed by God. 13, where do the other leaf colors, the browns, oranges, reds, and yellows come from? Here's what I wanted you to get. Photosynthesis stops, chlorophyll breaks down, and the other pigments or colors are always there underneath, and now they're exposed to be seen because the green coloring has broken down and not there anymore. That's the idea. Happens as it cools off. So anyway, 14, who was a brilliant English scientist, mathematician who came up with the laws of motion? Newton, Isaac Newton. Last name was fine. First law of motion, a moving object will keep moving in a straight line at the same velocity unless acted upon by a force. And then an at-rest object will stay at rest and not move unless it's acted upon by a force. What does at rest mean? Not moving. 18 and 19, the third law of motion states for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Equal opposite reaction. 20 and 21, the universal law of gravitation states every object in the universe attracts every other object. Universal law of gravitation. 22, what country developed the first rockets? It was China. NASA is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Space Administration. I gave you a massive clue in the parenthesis. It runs the USA space program. So you're welcome. 24, rockets operate using what scientific law? Well, I give you credit if you put the first law of motion. An object in motion will keep moving at the same velocity in the same direction unless acted upon by a force. But the best answer was the third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite. Action, reaction. So, 25, astronauts do science experiments on the ISS. What does ISS stand for? International Space Station. All right, you had the matching on the back. 26, small robots that move around on another planet, rovers. A push or pull is a force. The force that propels a rocket forward. Thrust, an object that revolves around another object, a satellite. The speed of an object in a given direction, velocity. A something carries scientific instruments into space, no human crew, space probe. Many sections of a rocket placed or stacked on top of each other, multi-stage rocket. 33, the speed of a space object that it has to get going or attain to keep going around a planet or moon. Orbital velocity, because it's orbiting around. And then that's 17,500 miles an hour. A device that shoots gas out in one direction, it's action, reaction. and it moves in the opposite direction. A rocket, of course, 34 rocket, and the speed a spacecraft must attain to leave the Earth's gravity, like on the way to the moon or in the future going to Mars. That would be escape velocity, because you've escaped the Earth's gravity. So I'm going to give you really quick just a little break with Mr. Gilbert, and then I am right back here. So with Mr. Gilbert, he'll answer any questions, clarify anything. And I'm back. And earlier, a couple of weeks ago maybe, Mr. Gilbert talked about drought. And I want to tell you this. This is kind of good news. In the month of November, late in the month especially, we start to move into our, now it's Arizona, so we're a desert. Deserts, all deserts are dry. So we get 8 inches of rain a year down here in Phoenix. It's not very much. So usually west of the Mississippi, it's usually 20 inches or less, and 20 inches or more east of the Mississippi. So anyway, so the further west you come, the drier it gets. So, but it's our rainy season, so late in November, and then December, January, February, and into March, sometimes even into April, we have our best opportunity to get maybe 2/3 of our precipitation, maybe 3/4 of it. And it's really important for filling up the reservoirs in the spring. The kind of precip that we want that will fill up the lakes is not rain down here, because we're below the reservoirs. Now, if it rains up there above them or on them, that's good. That's fine. But what we want up in the high country, on the Mogollon Rim, Flagstaff area, eastern Arizona, and the White Mountains, we want a lot of snow up there every winter. That's what's going to melt in the spring, run down the Salt River from the east, or the Verde River from the north, and into our reservoirs, and stored there. So our prayer is, and I want to have a little prayer about this, that we'll get a lot of snow up in the high country. It's not officially winter, that's December 21st, but in another 6 weeks it'll officially be winter. So anyway, let's pray for a lot of precip. Lord, thank you for providing all that snow last year and rain that filled our reservoirs up to the brim. Thank you, God. I pray that it might be a really wet winter, even though it's forecast not to be. I pray that you would overcome that, because nothing is too hard for you. That you would overcome that and bring, I'll even pray for record snow up in the high country this winter, and we would thank you for it come March and April. Amen. Okay, I want to give you SRP data, so if I should have asked you to take out your journal. Wherever you have SRP data in your journal, I've got October 1 and November 1 data. So find it in your journal. Quick, fast. Okay, here's October 1. Roosevelt Lake, October 1st, was 84%. You can find this on your own, srp.net, and just put the correct date in. So October 1st, Roosevelt Lake, 84%. All the reservoirs, 82%, October 1st. So Roosevelt, 84, all the reservoirs, 82. November 1st, so down 1% each. So Roosevelt, 83%. Roosevelt, 83 on November 1st. Today. Remember, I'm taping on Sunday. And all the reservoirs, 81%. 81%. So, anywho. So, we'll keep praying for that really wet winter. Now, I want to tell you about freebies. Okay? Here's what I'm doing. I'm going to take this approach, a little bit more of a hardball approach to freebies. So, already, based on what I graded for last week's worth. People haven't turned in some assignments. So automatically, if you don't turn an assignment, you're going to burn your freebie up. So it's my decision. So your freebie's gone, and you won't have any left for the quarter. So if you didn't turn an assignment in, adios to your freebie. I'm going to write it down on a notepad that I took your freebie. And if you turn an assignment in and go, I'm using my freebie. No, you're not. So you're going to have to do that assignment. So anyway, if you know you didn't do an assignment, then don't try to use a second freebie. You've only got one. It's designed to be like a safety valve for you, a lifeboat kind of. So not to just use any old time. So anyway, okay. Now here's what I want you to do for homework. I want to show you this. So I want to go over homework. How are we doing? Good. So I want to go over your homework, tell you what it is, and then I've got something really neat to show you on the computer that you can do if you want. Okay, you have two worksheets to do today. So 81F and 87F. And here are the page numbers on these. So Mr. Gilbert's going to help me out and stick these up on the board. So these two worksheets, 81F and 87F, you are going to use page 78 to 86. 78 to 86. 78 to 86. Now I have good news for you on this. Mr. C, we've got two worksheets. Are you going to require us to do page numbers on these? No, I'm not. I'm going to do a little experiment. The one variable not controlled is sometimes I ask you to do the page numbers. In this case, I'm not going to. So I want to see how you do with it. Now, if people miss a whole lot more because they didn't put the page numbers down and weren't careful and just started guessing, you can guess how many more times I'm going to let you pass on the page numbers. You're right, 0. Yeah. So do a nice job with this. Look up the answers anyway on those pages, 78 to 86. 78 to 86. So you're going to fill these babies out. Do a nice job on them. So there's 10 points right there. So remember, no page numbers. But you know what I want you to do? I want you to initial beside each number where you actually found the answer. Just initial right beside the answer. You don't need a page number, just your initials. And what you're saying by putting your initials there is, Mr. C, I really did find the answer. So initial it. Found the answer, initial it. Found the answer, initial it. Now, I'll let you do this. If you know the answer to some of those, like I think geocentric is in there and heliocentric, a question on them. If you know the answer, you don't, it's not necessary to initial, okay? If you know the answer. So anyway, now I want to show you this. This is worth 15 points. You can turn it in any time throughout the quarter right up until probably the last week of November. So you probably have like 4 weeks to get this in. This is a really cool website. I want to show it to you. Let's see if I can get this up for you. Now here's what you do with this. Here's how cool this is. Okay? So this is called Exploratorium. Exploratorium.edu. And here's what you do. You put your weight in. And then you hit calculate. And it's going to show you what you would weigh on all the planets. Now, because I'm going to give you 15 points for this. So here's the deal. It's all or nothing. You either do a thorough job. If you turn it in and didn't do a thorough job, then I'm going to hand it back to you, no points. So all or nothing. And then you can make corrections if you want and turn it back in. And if you did it correctly, you can get the 15 points. Okay? So bonus. It's a neat way to get a 15 over 15, like a big quiz score. Okay? which would help your grade, certainly. Okay, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to write what you would weigh on the planets, and then underneath, there's the moons of Jupiter. And then a few different kinds of stars, what you'd weigh on those. So I want you to put your weight on each of those space bodies. But I also want you to do it if you weighed 100 pounds. And I want you to calculate what you would weigh if you weighed 100 pounds on the Earth. And why am I doing that? Why am I doing it over 100? Because that would be a certain percent of your weight, wouldn't it? So I want to know what percent you would weigh on each of these space bodies. What percent you would weigh. So the percent. Okay, now some of them, like the sun, woo. Okay, the sun is like 2,800%, I think. So you'll find out. So I want two answers beside each one. What your actual weight is, and then what you'd weigh on Mercury, Venus, the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, etc. What you'd weigh on those bodies, what you'd weigh on the moons of Jupiter, Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, what you'd weigh there. And then I want you to put a second weight by each one. So it's your weight and then slash what you would weigh if you weighed 100 pounds on that particular space body. So two answers to each one. Are you understanding? Mr. Gilbert will explain it to you if you're not quite sure what I'm getting at. Okay? So instantly it calculates your weight on each space body. That's what you'll put on your paper. So you'll write Mercury, what your weight is, and then you're going to put the second weight slash if you weighed 100 pounds, which most of you don't, I know that, but it's for percent purposes. So I want you to put down what you'd weigh if you weighed 100 pounds on each of those. Then you can turn it in. So two different weights for each space body. Okay? And if Mr. Gilbert needs to clarify this, he certainly can. Okay? So, and the homework. So the homework one more time, these two worksheets, which he's passing out to you, and you're going to have like 7 or 8 minutes to work on this. So again, you don't have to put the page numbers, but initial, if you found the answer or if you know the answer, and you can initial it. And we'll see how you go. Okay? I want to see if you'll still be conscientious and really try hard to get the correct answer. I suspect you will. Please do that. Okay? So your homework, those two worksheets, 81F, 87F, and we will go over those tomorrow and do some more fun space things. Okay? I hope you enjoy that exploratorium.edu website. Exploratorium. Okay? I saved you maybe 7 minutes to work on your homework. Mr. Gilbert, help people out that need a little clarification. Thank you.